Well, hello everyone. Welcome to another exciting edition of Behind the Bench, brought to you by the National Soccer Coaching Association of Canada. And thank you for joining us. I'm your host, Tony LaFerrara. So we're excited to bring you part one. There's going to be another part two of the webinar to discuss what some coaches believe is a disappointing showing at the 2023 FIFA Men's U17 World Cup by our national team, U17 national team. We will talk about that. We will talk about the talent identification, and we'll talk about player development in Canada with our panel of experts. And by the way, Sean Fleming will not be able to join us today. I got an email from him about an hour ago, and Sean I think he's got COVID. He's very sick, and so he won't be able to join us. He was here in Whitby for about a week doing coaching seminars, and so he was shaking hands and kissing babies and doing the whole thing for the whole week, and it was and it's probably that's how we got it. So he will not be with us this time, but he will join us for part two, maybe next week or the week after. Our panel of experts today are Rafael Carvajal. Rafael, many of you know him as the former assistant coach with the men's national team. Rafael has coached in Italy as well, and is now in Paraguay coaching professionally in Paraguay 2-3 years now, I think, Rafa, maybe more. Richard Bucciarelli is the National Soccer Coaching Association expert about sports science and fitness. Pavan Mossavat, former provincial coach, university coach with York University, Ryerson, UIT in Oshawa, and now with Laurier. John De Benedictis, author of John, is it the last 6 seconds or 9 seconds? What was it?
9.
How to Score Goals. And I am your host, Tony LaFerrara. By the way, yesterday we were talking with some guys at the OSA, and we figured out that I've been involved in this game for 51 years, and that's a long time. All right, so Rafael, I'm going to start with you. We didn't do well at the World Cup. The U17 boys didn't do well at the World Cup. They lost 2-0 to Spain, 3-0 to Uzbekistan, and 5-1 to Mali. My question is, Rafa, is this as good as it gets, or can we do better? Can't hear you, Rafa.
Audio is not working. No.
He may have muted himself.
Oh boy.
Doesn't show as mute.
Yeah.
No.
We're gonna, Richard, do you want to take on this question, and then we'll see when Rafa joins us, then maybe he can put in his 2 cents.
So the question was, is this as good as it gets, right?
Is it as good as it gets, or can we do better, or should we do better?
Yeah, well, I guess I'll start. I would say that the disappointing results are caused, there are one of two causes. The first is that perhaps this team, this under-17 team, was comprised of the best, the most talented young players that we have in Canada. And if that's the case, then this is as good as it gets until we do a better job of developing the most talented players that we have. So if it's in fact the case that the team had the best players that Canada has to offer, then clearly there's something wrong with the way we're developing these talented players that we have, because they're not able to be competitive even with, let's say, okay, Mali, Uzbekistan, not to take anything away, and I can see Mali has gone all the way to the semifinal in this tournament, but these are not recognized as top soccer nations. On the other hand, the other possible explanation for the disappointing result is maybe these aren't the best players that we have. And if that's the case, then the problem is with player identification. meaning we're not doing a good enough job of scouting between the provinces, between all of the different leagues and clubs and academies and programs and whatever talented players that are out there. And so we've missed out on some talented players, and that perhaps could have helped us. I think it's a little bit of both, and I'm not sure what percentage we could ascribe to the problem with player development versus the problem with player identification, but I believe it's probably a little bit of both.
Yeah, I agree with you, Richard. I mean, you can't separate the two of them. You know, player development, player identification, they go hand in hand, I think. Payvan, what do you think? What are your thoughts on that? Can we do better? Should we do better? Or, man, you know, this is it. And I'll tell you why, Payvan, if you don't mind. Because looking at past World Cups, this is we always finish last, basically, right? In the World Cup. So it doesn't seem to be much improvement or too many changes. But Payvan, your thoughts on that? Can we do better?
Yeah, I think first of all, thanks for having me on this panel and this discussion today. I appreciate it, and I'm no way or shape, and expert in any of these at this level. But I could just, personal thoughts of being involved in the game in Canada, in my throughout my life as a former player and as a coach in the community. And I think Richard's definitely bang on in terms of the reality. And I don't think, whatever number of people that we have, 80 people, 100 people that we have on this call, I'm sure everybody would agree that, there's multiple factors in having a successful team. And we can't disregard the fact that who we lost to. I mean, we lost to Mali there in the finals, Spain, a team that came into, the final 8, quarterfinals, et cetera. So we've lost to some teams that definitely have quality, without a doubt. And Mali going and being successful, is it a one-off? Which could be in football. That the great, this fantastic documentary that's on right now, talking about the chance, and football being such an unpredictable sport where, by chance and by luck, you could actually get to the next stage. So, but there's definitely some components missing, and there's no question that we've, and I don't know whether we could blame it on COVID or what had happened over the, a short period of time. Because I think Canada Soccer, Ontario Soccer, provincial bodies, they're trying to do their best to have better coaches now, more robust system in place. We're supposed to have a high performance environment, and we have professional academies. We have more coaches now licensed, coaching than ever before in this country. We were all coached by dads and that had very little experience, back in our time. And then, the identification piece, right? That seems to be, I think, a little bit, potentially favored towards kids that are just coming out of those professional academies.
Payvan, we'll get to that. We'll get to the identification process. Rafael, can you hear us now? Is your sound back on, Rafael? We cannot hear you. I know you're in Paraguay and it's too far, but you need to shout a little bit louder.
Rafael, you might want to log back out and back in, see whether you have more success.
Yeah,
It shows his mic is muted.
Yeah, but that he muted it now, but it wasn't muted before. I don't know if.
So Johnny, so Payvan was talking about coaching and coaching education and all of that, right? But most of these players that played on the U17 national team, they all come from academies. TFC, Montreal, Vancouver, they all have professional coaches, full-time coaches. These kids train every day, almost every day. They have good competition. They play with other academies around the MLS and against each other and so on. So what gives? We got good coaching, we got good facilities, they train every day, but still we cannot break that last spot in the World Cup.
Well, Payvan did say about, sometimes a bit of luck. Maybe we got, Mali looked very good from what I saw. And it could be a one of, and Spain is always good. Uzbekistan, I think a couple of errors, and next thing you know, we're chasing the game. So you don't know, but I'm still not so sure about player identification. If we're not giving more players a chance, I'm not 100% sure if we're doing a great job at that.
But what about player development, John? We're talking about player development. These are all kids, all kids, they play in the academies, they train in the academies, full-time coaches, paid staff every day.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, maybe we got the toughest group. It's hard to say, but I think, we've improved a lot with player development. The question is, are these kids, good tactically? I think technique-wise, they've really come a long way, but sometimes kids are so reliant on their techniques that they forget that there's a whole bunch of players playing with them. I just noticed it with some of the younger kids where they're coming in doing all this fancy stuff that they learn at a very young age, and they have no idea of 2v1s or 2v2s and moving on up. So is that an issue? I don't know. Canada's a wide country. Are we able to get players from TFC, Montreal, Vancouver training together enough to go to a World Cup? I don't know how long they prepared. So there's a variety of issues there, and from the game I saw, a couple of bad errors on defense, and then you're down, and then you're in trouble. You can't make those types of mistakes at the back.
I would just jump in with a couple of things, guys. Just food for thought. Okay, let's say so. We can look at the under-17 performance in this tournament, and okay, we lost 3 games and we only scored 1 goal, and all of that, and we can say, well, it was a tough group, or things could have gone differently, and maybe the results could have gone differently. But Canada at the under-17 level on the men's side has been consistently poor. So we've never in the tournaments that we qualified for, we've never gone out of the group, and there's a long stretch where we didn't even qualify for that World Cup. So I would be hesitant to say, to put too much stock in, the idea that it's only now, that this was like an anomaly or whatever. Like, it wasn't. We've been consistently poor at that level, and really we haven't been much better U20 or senior. So that's one. The second thing about the, let's say, the environment in the MLS academies, I can't speak to Montreal and Vancouver, but I did work for a couple of years at the TFC Academy. And so I know that environment very well. And what I can say is that, if I look at, let's say, Toronto is a fairly large city, and we have only one professional club in Toronto. It's only Toronto FC. So in that environment, Toronto is like the Barcelona of Canada. And Toronto,
easy now, Richard. Easy.
No, I'm saying relative to, like, for Canada, TFC is our top club. It's the club that's in the biggest province where the majority of the talented players live. So it's the top club. So if we accept that, then we'd have to look at that academy, and we'd have to say, well, did we really go out in that academy and find the best U17, U16, U15, U14 coaches to coach in that academy? Or did we sort of find coaches that are at the same caliber or the same level than the hundreds of others that are coaching in other community clubs, private academies, and so on? And to me, from what I saw when I was there, the coaching level was basically the same. So we didn't go find the experts in youth development to go and work at that academy, whether that's because they didn't have the salaries to offer people, or politics, or whatever it is, I don't know. But Toronto FC Academy, which is the only professional club in the largest city in the province, which has the most talented players, probably should have the experts in youth development in that academy, and I don't think that they do. And so I don't think we can make the argument that the environment there has been optimized to develop players. It's almost exactly the same as what you have in dozens of other clubs.
Yeah, Rafael.
Can you hear me now?
Can I
Can you
just,
hear me now?
yeah,
We can hear you now.
Richard, can I just,
Okay,
can I
good.
just interject for 1 second on a technical issue?
No, Johnny, you can't. You have to ask me if you can.
Oh, sorry, Tony, but I know the technical part. I'm just wondering what people are seeing. Are they just seeing the flyer that we had out, or are they able to focus in on the speaker?
Well, we got speakers now. So yeah, I took the flyer out now.
Okay.
There you go.
okay,
Now I see myself.
Okay. Okay, go ahead.
Excellent.
Rafael, so
Yes.
now that we can hear you, my question to you was, so Canada hasn't done well. The U17 boys team has not done very well at the World Cup. We lost 3 games. My question was, is this as good as it gets? This is the best that we can do? Or can we do better? And should we do better? What do you think?
Well, number one, Canada is a first world country, meaning a rich country with everything, with the capability of getting anything they want. Money is there, and if it's not in the CSA, they can get it somewhere because the money is around. There's a lot of people interested in the game, and a lot of business people interested in investing in the game. So obviously, if there is a will, there's a way. I don't think there is a will in Canada, as Richard said, to go look for the expert, to go look for the people with experience, real experience, not theory experience. I'm talking about people who coach professionally for years, who have the know-how, who has the knowledge of how the international game works. I honestly tell you, Tony, I don't think Canada has the mindset to compete internationally. The mindset is a different thing than what they teach in courses in Canada. Therefore, you have poor countries doing very well. They don't have the fields that we have in Canada. They don't have the facilities. They don't have the money. They don't have anything, but they have the mindset. They have the hunger, which hunger in soccer is a very, very important aspect. To always look to battle in every game. I realized traveling around the world and coaching around the world, hunger is everything, you know, but that doesn't mean the hunger goes together with being poor. I mean, hunger for glory, hunger for winning, for competing to win, not competing to participate, competing to win.
Yeah, and I agree with you. And you mentioned something about facilities before. I think as far as facilities are concerned, we do pretty good in Canada. I mean, we have outdoor fields everywhere. We have indoor facilities everywhere. So we have plenty of resources in terms of training facilities, lots of them. You've been in Italy. I know how it is in Italy. They only have one soccer field in the whole town, and you have to rent it ahead of time if you want to use it for half an hour. So we have facilities, lots of them, lots of them. We have, you know, as far as playing and hunger, getting hungry and loving the game, there was a question. We were talking with Stevie Payne. We all know Stevie. And he had a picture of a field, and he says, you know, this field in Canada, it's during the day, it's never being used. In Mali, where they beat Canada 5-1, it's every day. They're on the field every day. They finish school, they go out and they play from morning till night. We're talking about the hunger and the love and the passion for the game. So, you know, Canada, I mean, in reality, soccer is not our #1 sport. Hockey is, maybe basketball is ahead, probably volleyball and lacrosse. You know, it's not our #1 sport. I think we play soccer because, you know, we want to play on the OPDL team, or we want to go play in the States in an academy. But we don't play soccer because I want to play for a freaking Man United. I want to play for, you know, with that love and passion. So why do we put this pressure on ourselves that when we go to the World Cup, we have to win? Because why? We're not doing anything to prepare these kids. So once they get there, they'll be successful. And so, Peyton, I'm going to come back to you. You've been in the game for a long time, longer than most people. Can you compare kids that you were coaching, say, 20 years ago? Yeah, and you know which ones I'm referring to, the ones that you and I experienced as well. Kids that you were coaching 20 years ago, the quality of those kids, Rafa, and you were there as well, and Richard, you played as well. John, and you and I talked about it. 20 years ago, compare those kids then with the kids now. I know what my answer is, but what is your point on that, Peyton?
Yeah, so I think first of all, I love some of the points that Rafa made, and I think that mindset and hunger he talks about, it comes back to our culture, you know, that football culture and you know, and wanting it more than anything else, you know, wanting to win the game, wanting to compete like your life depends on it. So that's something that's missing in here because you know, clearly just because of the environment we live in. Comparing kids back then, the kids that I coached, the '84 boys, you know, to now, and the kids that are, I don't know whether it's so much in the level of play, their ability. I think, again, it does come back to who they were as individuals and the role we played as coaches. You know, the coaching back then for me was, you know, and I'm sure for yourself and everybody else, and it should be still, it was a vocation. You were coaching because you wanted to make a difference in those kids. Parents trusted you with those kids. Whatever you said was what, you know, how things were done with those kids. Today's kids, there's so many distractions. I find entitled, you know, just because of this new generation that's entitled. Even the parents, it's almost impossible to have a conversation about a kid, to a parent about their kid in terms of their development. You know, they don't take points well, they don't trust what you're doing, you know, and again, you know, it's that comes back to that mindset of these kids, their attitude and the behavior towards the game that has changed. Not necessarily the technical skills and you know, how they maneuver the ball or how they shoot or pass. That you were able to get blood out of stone from those kids. But today, you know, I was at a webinar or at a you know, at the summit where we're talking about you can no longer make kids run. You know, even though our sport, you know, it requires kids to do some running and, you know, to do some extra stuff. And, you know, if it hurts the kid, if unfortunately, you know, it's positioned as stressing the kid and mental health, you got to stop doing it. So all of this was different back then when we were coaching kids. I think that's something that has changed. And again, to one more point that to Rafa's point and yourself, Tony, that you said, I think this competing thing is what's hurting us. You know, our kids are now learning to compete. You know, Ontario Soccer, and people are going to criticize me for what I'm going to say today, but I think we do need to say these things, and we need to say it in a bigger platform. I mean, this is great. I think a lot of people are going to see this, but I think we need to come out and express how we feel about this. Guys that are running clubs, the TDs of organizations, and people within our province. I think Ontario Soccer has done some great things with some of the things that they've changed. You know, in grassroots programs, some great things. You know, one of the top things that I think is the best thing they've done is having a kid have the ability to play down in your developmental age rather than your biological age. But some of the things that we're doing in terms of retreat lines at 12 years old, 11 years old, I've been in environments. You know, I was in Europe not too long ago, sitting at a you know, round table. We're having a conversation. I talked about, you know, retreat line in Canada up to age 12, and like people burst out in laughter. They think that I was making a joke. You know, these things have taken meaningful competition for us. We don't have meaningful competition, right? Not till 14 years old, even at OPDL level, fantastic standard based. You know, when there's we've taken promotion relegations, different subject, But now within season, we have the top players, top teams play each other, bottom teams play each other, which is great. Again, bring people to the same level.
Yeah, yeah.
It is a promotion relegation, but within a season. But those kids that are playing down, they don't have too many meaningful games. Once halfway through the season, there's no championship for them to fight for. We need to create an environment where the kids are playing more meaningful games.
In talking with all the coaches that I've spoken with, and you have as well, Richard, and everyone, I think we have taken the fun out of the game. I remember kids used to go to tournaments. They couldn't wait to go to a tournament. Get on the bus and go and stay in a hotel and play 4 games and loved it. Played 2 games in a game, 3 games in a day. And, at the last game, we have taken the fun out of it. I watch games. I watch OPDL games. I scout for the OSA and I watch a lot of OPDL games. There's some good talent out there. There's some good things that we're doing. But also, I watch games sometimes where kids, it looks like they don't want to be there. They're there because they and they don't want to be there. Rafa, go ahead, please.
Okay, there's a couple of points that I want to make. Number one, soccer is not the number 1 sport in Russia or in Japan or in many other countries, and they compete at world level. They have top players all around the world. So to me, the soccer is not the number 1 sport in Canada. That's just an excuse. It has nothing to do with anything. I mean, the competitive mind starts when you're a little kid. You compete for everything. For example, I'm gonna give you an example that I know very well. Soccer in Uruguay. Uruguay just won the U17 World Cup, beating Spain in the final. And they have 7-a-side soccer. It started at 5. And they play that soccer, which is called baby football, 7-a-side, up until 12 years of age. But the competitive level in 5, 6, 7-year-olds, it's immense. Now, I know in Canada, I have many arguments with a lot of people in a lot of meetings for many years. When they say, well, you cannot pressure the kids, they need to have fun. As far as I know, personally, because I always been competitive, for me, fun was winning. If I didn't win, to me, I didn't have fun. The bottom line is this. How do you expect 17-year-olds to handle a situation with a lot of pressure when they need to perform, do well, with a mindset, a winning mindset, if they cannot handle the pressure? Handling the pressure is something that you need to learn at an early age. If you don't, when you're 15, 17, you're not going to learn how to handle the pressure. You need to do it before. In Uruguay, for example, the filter is that the players that make it to the top, to pro, are the kids. They can handle the pressure and they don't mind. They get used to it and the pressure doesn't mean anything anymore. Then your mind is free to start thinking about tactics, to start thinking about technique, what to do, what to say to the teammate, But if you cannot free your mind from the pressure of the moment, you cannot perform. It doesn't matter who you are. So the biggest problem in Canada is there are kids, as Paven said, they are too light in reality, and they cannot handle the pressure. If you cannot do that, you cannot be a top pro player. And the pressure comes with life experience. For example, this kid, Davis, I mean, the kid came to Canada, a young kid, but he knew pressure because his mother went through pressure. He went through pressure to make it in soccer, and now he's a top player in the world. But the reality is, if you don't, if you're light, if you crumble in front of pressure because people are saying things to you, in Canada, there's no pressure, not even in the crowd. I've been in pressure situations. I've seen pressure situations.
Yeah.
I am in one now, you know, because if I don't win, I lose my job and my staff loses their job. So winning is everything, and winning is part of development. If you don't teach the kids to win and to handle the losses bravely, forget it, it's not gonna happen. So the mindset, it's always been, since I went to Canada for the first time in my life in 1980, is being participation. And that's it. Don't compete to win, participate, be part of it.
Yeah.
Do sports, be healthy, blah, 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 all that. But winning is a different thing.
Yeah,
It's a
I have,
different thing.
you know, I have some numbers that I want to throw at you guys. You know, with the U17 program in Canada, right? So going back to 1983, actually, I'm going to start with 2001. You know, in the group stage, they finished 4th out of 8. The next year was 5 out of 8. Again, 5 out of 8. Second, this year, 2019 to 2023, they were 4th out of 20 teams in CONCACAF. Out of 20 teams in CONCACAF, they were 4th. That's pretty good to me. It's pretty good to me. There's been a lot of improvement. You know, we're talking about our own region, right? Outside of the region, it's a different story. But there has been some improvement. The question is, has that been a fluke? Was that just by chance? You know, can we continue to build on that and make it better? Can we learn from this experience in this World Cup and try to make it better? Or, like I said before, it's as good as it gets. You know, the quality of coaching. Should we improve that? And how do we do that? Rafa, you were talking about, you know, bringing in people that have experience in coaching. You know, I got to tell you a story, and I heard this morning from a reliable source. And God forgive me, but the coach of the U17 boys team, prior to coaching his first assignment with the U17, he had no coaching experience at all, zero. And he was appointed because he was connected. Now this is what I was told by a reliable source, a very reliable source. And the same guy has been there for 4 years, 5 years. So someone who has no coaching experience, Rafa, and he's going to take these kids to the next level. He can't do that. There's no way he can do that. So my question is, Richard, I'm going to ask you this question is, okay, we know that we have some things in place. We have good facilities. You know, we have good resources. We have the numbers. We have a lot of kids that play soccer, right? But in terms of coaching, how much improvement do we need to make on that? And how do we do that? And I know you have a lot of opinions about that.
Right. Yeah. Thank you for the question. This is something I'm very passionate about. So what I would say about coaching is that what we need in order to develop better coaches is we need a coach licensing system, which is, let's say, equal to the standard of the coach licensing systems in other countries. And so what I look at is well, who are the instructors in our coach licensing program, and how do they compare relative to the instructors in some top countries? And I mean, I spent some time with Rafa in Uruguay, and I visited him when he was in Argentina, and I was fortunate to get to sit in on an A license lesson with Rafa there, and you know, these experiences really opened up my eyes, because the instructors in the Argentinian A license, and remember, that's a top country producing lots of top coaches and obviously top players, and won the World Cup. The instructors were coaches who had been in the under 20 men's national team, the one that won the World Cup back in 2007. They had a fitness coach there that had been working with professional clubs for over a decade.
He's now in Colombia.
Right.
He's the Colombian national team fitness coach.
Right. So, you know, these are some of the best coaches and the most experienced coaches in a country that has hundreds of top coaches.
Yeah.
Okay. These are the ones that are teaching the other coaches taking the licenses. Now, I have been involved in Ontario soccer and Canada soccer as a coach educator for almost 10 years. I took licenses with those federations before. And of course, I've been to other countries and done other licenses as well. Okay. We have never in Canada had instructors teaching coaches that have been anywhere near that level of experience, that level of knowledge, and anyone with a track record of actually having developed players and had success at the top level. In fact, like you said, Tony, about the coaches in the national teams, the coach instructors, a lot of them, they get top jobs. For example, director of development, manager of coach development, jobs like that, which should go to the best coaches in the country. And there are people in our country that get jobs like that have never coached at all. Or they've coached, a couple of years in some club or whatever. They have no business being a manager of coach development or a director of development. And yet they get those jobs. So what we have, our licensing program, with inexperienced, unqualified teachers, this is the equivalent of a medical school where the professors are not top physicians. It's the equivalent of a law school where the professors are not top lawyers and experienced lawyers. We will never develop better coaches unless we start with better coaching instructors. And then I would also say, look at the curriculum. I'm sorry, guys, but I've been through it. We don't teach a curriculum with tactics, with defending, with transition, with all of the things that coaches really need to know in order to teach their players. We don't teach coaches about these things. Half of the time in our licensing courses, we spend talking about safe sport, respect for referees, how self-esteem, all these things. I know Rafa touched on it, Pavan touched on it, Tony, you touched on it too. Okay, our education here has been completely monopolized by this ideology, which is that if you don't make a player feel good about himself or herself all the time, if you don't make them feel like they're special all the time, somehow you failed, and everything is again about them feeling good. We can't criticize them, we can't discipline, we can't do anything. So it's almost as though our hands are tied. The content isn't good enough and the instructors aren't good enough. And until that gets better, we will never develop top coaches here.
Yeah, Pavan, I'll give you a second. I'll give you a minute in a second.
Yeah.
I started this conversation at the beginning saying that I've been involved in the game for 51 years. So I've been through, you name any license that you can think of, I've been through it, with the exception of the A license. Don't ask me why. I've been through it all the time. And I got to be honest with you and with everyone. And you know what? After 51 years of coaching, you know how much I know about soccer? This much, or maybe even less than that. Because, you're always learning. You're always trying to get better. You're always trying to learn, Richard, to your point, from people who know more than you do. They are the ones that make you better, the experience. So I've been involved in all of that. I can say that I'm a student of the game. I love the game. I love to learn about the game. I like to know things. I like to talk to people that know more than I do, right? I think I've learned some things, but I had to do it either on my own or I had to go outside of this country to talk to people and learn from other people, right? And I think, maybe some people, like Richard said, are not going to like this. Pavan said the same thing. I'm not going to like this. Rafa, I'm looking at you. You spend time with Benito, one of the top coaches. And after you learned from him, you had to leave the country to go somewhere else. Why can't we use your knowledge now? Why can't we use what you have learned and you pass it on to me, to Pavan, to Richard, to Johnny, to everybody, so that we can pick up from that and learn from that. You know, the one thing that I know about coaches in Canada, we're all jealous of each other. If I know something, I'm not going to tell Pavan, because if I tell Pavan, then he's going to do well, and no, I'm not going to tell him. In other countries, and Johnny and I, you were talking about it, they share everything. They sit down, and they talk about, hey, how you do this? How do you do that? Oh, maybe I can do this, or maybe I can improve on it. But anyway, so going back to the coaching education, Richard, I think, you know, if I have to be honest, I think we have done some good things in the beginning. We have done some good things, but I think where we lack more is you know, beyond the U12s and U13s and U14s, you know, beyond that into the 11-a-side game, I think we have a lot to learn. Pavan.
So, guys, you make so many fantastic points, and I'm trying to write down so I don't forget. But first of all, on this point on coaching education, right? And I'm going to take you guys back, because I don't think that's the source of the problem. It is a problem. Coaching education is a problem. You and I know, you know, 10 years ago, there was a coaching education job opportunity, and the person who was employed in that position had just got their National B license. Meanwhile, someone that you and I know well, with a UEFA, a USSF, a former pro of 20 years, was driving a cab. So that's an issue. And I know I'm going to hear about this, because people know who I'm talking about, and I'm going to hear about this, but that's okay. I think we need to take those, you know, filters out so we could have a, you know, frank conversation. So, I mean, we're talking about coaching education and not having a direct relationship with our player development. I disagree, because I go back to my time of playing, you know, within CSL and Canada and whatever, whatnot, you know, and I look at the kids that were coming out of my era. I never had, you know, not that I played at the highest level, but within this environment I did, but even national team players. Not everybody has. I know you coach Pesh, but the rest of the guys didn't have licensed coaches. The guys that came out through that era of playing, you know, soccer, the Ian Carters and Kevin Holness in Saskatchewan, and even Lyndon Hooper and the guys, you know, Mark Watson. So a lot of these guys at the youth level, at the club level, they were dads. My coach was Mr. Houghton, Mike and Dave, and then Mr. Serrano. Those are the 3 years that I played youth soccer in Canada from the time I came.
And just to add to that, and we used to train in a gymnasium.
That's it.
30 by 30.
There was no indoor. There was no indoor soccer. There was Soccer World 2, you know, and that was for adults typically. I remember playing with an Iranian team that was a 16-year-old in this indoor league that they played. And but yet they managed to produce players who played for Canada. So if you want to go get the information, and back then it wasn't the world of information now so easily at your disposal through internet, blah, 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 and all of this stuff. These people did it, I think, you know, out of passion, the love for the game, some personal experience, but then they managed to get these kids into provincial programs, international programs. But yes, I agree with Rafa that at the highest level, you do need people that have been in the trenches, people that understand our nature and who we are as a nation, and what are our strengths and what are our weaknesses, and they've been at the levels where they've had success. Yes, unfortunately, we have coaches that haven't had, you know, experience in the trenches. When I tell you in the trenches, I mean trenches. You know, have you coached a youth team in a you know, non elite environment and help that kid get to the next level, solve problems with those teams that have minimum resources, that they're just training at a park, and yet manage to produce players? People that have been in the trenches, have done the work, and then at the highest level, they've been successful, consistently been successful. I'm gonna throw a twist in here. Let's go back to 1994 World Cup qualifying. Last game of the qualifying, Canada versus Mexico, when only one team from CONCACAF was qualifying. Only one team. There was only one team could go. Canada first in the group, Mexico second behind them by 1 point. US had already qualified because it was a 94 World Cup game at Varsity Stadium. All Canada needed was a tie. Canada was up 1-0. Game got tied 1-1. And in the 82nd minute, I think Hugo Sanchez scored a goal. I was in the stadium. Looking at the time I was playing in CSL, I was looking at everybody who was there, and I'll name, with the exception of 3-4, maybe Frankie Yallop, Colin Miller, Craig Forrest, and probably Randy Samuel. Every other player was a product of Canadian Soccer League that started in 1986. Every player, all the youth players, your player, Paul Pascasolido, Alex Bunbury, Mark Watson, Carl Fletcher, Kevin Holness, Ian Carter, Peter Sarantopoulos, everybody who was there was a product of Tom Kuzmanis. Everybody was a product of CSL. So it was that professional environment that we don't have. We have our League One now that's pushing for young players to play. They're putting minutes, our CPL. I think my boy Patrice, I think had the youngest team and showed success right through. And I'm proud of him for that, for playing the younger guys, right? But we don't have 16, 17-year-olds. Thomas Rosinski, 16 years old, Toronto Rockets, playing professionally.
Yeah, and League One, as far as I know and I remember, League One was made or built to give kids that graduate from OPDL to get the experience in League One, and then from there become, going to the pro ranks, right? I don't know how many OPDL kids, 17, 18, play OPDL, play League One. I don't know. I don't think there's too many of them.
No, absolutely.
I don't think
Absolutely.
So we're missing, I think we're missing the point there. We're missing the opportunity to have those kids, the 16s and maybe 15s and 17s and 18s who are good, who have talent, who show promise. Okay, go play League One, play against older kids, play against kids of your same level, your same caliber, and beat up on each other, and let's see what happens.
Absolutely.
We're missing that opportunity there.
100%. I agree with you. And again,
yeah.
Sorry to interrupt. The last thing, again, you look at that environment, that CSL environment, had all these guys, everybody that I just named, right? Maybe Ian Carter, because he graduated, he was 21 already coming into CSL because he was in an NCAA school. But the guys that were here, Peter Santopoulos, Kevin Holness, they were all 16, 17 playing at the highest level. And that league was comparable easily to CPL right now. How many CPL teams have 16, 17-year-olds as part of the squad regularly producing those players? TFC, Montreal, Vancouver. How many 16, 17-year-olds are playing in that environment that we could say, hey, these Canadian kids in these Canadian organizations are being groomed to play at the next level? Because again, it's about, unfortunately, it's about winning and it's about being successful, and that's that environment. So very little is done from exposing, in my opinion, and I might be wrong, from what I see, very few kids are getting that exposure, to play at that highest level. Within the academies.
I think that's one thing that's missing, is that on top of other things, it's that opportunity for competition, like Rafa was talking before, where you get your best 15, 16, 17s. Man, and everyone, I've seen kids in OPDL, some really good players. They show a lot of talent, a lot of potential. At 15, 16, they're dominating. They're killing everybody. They're not learning anything. For them, it's not hard. It's not challenging. It's just, let's go play. Take those kids out of there. Let them play in a different environment, and an environment where maybe, Rafa, to your point, where maybe they're going to fail more often, right? In order to get better. You know what I'm saying? They fail to get better. Now they play, whether they fail or not, it doesn't matter. Next game, they're going to play their 20 minutes, their 20, 25 minutes. So, there's a lot of things. There's some pros and cons with all of that. But if we want to develop kids that can go out and beat up on, Mali or some of the other teams, then we have to create that environment, Rafa, that you were talking about. Just one more thing about coaching education. Yeah, Rafael, you've been in Italy, right? You have experienced different cultures, Paraguay, South America, Uruguay, Italy, Canada. So compare your experience in learning, coaching education in Italy, in Paraguay, Uruguay, Canada, and you only have 4 minutes.
As you said before, you went through all the coaching courses in Canada. So did I, but I also did the A license. I never imagine my level 1 coaching when in the 80s used to be level 1, level 2, level 3. I did my level 1 in 82. I was playing. So I went through everything. Never, ever had an instructor that coached at the professional level. Never, ever, any instructor was able to tell us his own experience, you know, on how he coached in the stadium and that player, never, ever. And the Canadian license has no way anywhere. You cannot coach anywhere with the Canadian license. So right there, it tells you something. The level is not there. It's not a serious license on the way you can learn. Yes, you learn, but it was like me learning English before going to Canada at school. And then when I went to Canada, I realized the English I learned was, you know, not good. I needed to learn everything again. So basically, the Canadian license has no way. The instructors need to be experienced coaches. In Argentina, I had to do my license, my pro license in Argentina to be able to continue to coach in South America, because I coached in Uruguay, and when the season was over, they told me you cannot continue coaching unless you get your CONMEBOL pro license. And like Richard said, all the coaches, absolutely all of them were working at the top level right now and there, you know, like it was unbelievable. So they were able to tell us stories, to show us videos, it was all real. So you gain that experience and you learn, you know, about how to manage tough players, tough. What I mean tough, I mean, for example, here in Paraguay, this year I played 2 16-year-olds, 1 17 and 2 18s in my team. And they did fantastic. And actually the club is super happy because I was able to promote players to the first team. So they can sell them, they can make money, because at the end of the day, this is about money. It's a business.
It's a business. Yeah.
Professional football is about money. It's business. If you don't produce as a coach, if you're a youth coach and you work in a professional academy and you don't produce players for the first team, you're not doing your job. It doesn't matter how nice you are, how sweet you talk to them. You know, all the parents love you, and no, that doesn't work. That's not being professional. Being professional is an attitude. It has nothing to do with money. So basically, when I went to Italy, I went to a club and they told me, you're South American, so we're gonna give you this 15, under 15, under 16, I think it was, team, and see what you can do, teach them technique, tactics. We won the league because my mindset, it was about, they were old enough to try to win, not just to participate. They needed to win. So because of that, I was promoted to the first team, and then I ended up coaching the first team. So it is all about winning, and it is all about money. So if you put that aside, then you're not talking about professional soccer. You're talking about playing for fun with your friends, which is fine, it's fantastic, I love that. But when you're talking about the professional game, it's a completely different story. The mindset has to be winning, not participating. And in Canada, they continue with many things that had nothing to do with the pro game and had nothing to do with winning. and moving up in the stands and the FIFA stands. It has nothing to do with that. So basically what I'm saying is Canada needs to hire knowledgeable, experienced coaches. In Canada, up until I left Canada, it was all about who you know, not what you know. They only consider, I like you, you're good, you know, we'll have fun. No, it's not about that. Even if you don't like a person in your stuff, and whatever it is, if you're a winner, you should be given the job because you will put the country up there at a competitive level, and that will do an immense good to the country and to the sport in the country. Winning is what takes you up there, not participating. You need to win.
Yeah, Rafa, and I agree with most of the things you say. But you know, when it comes to you were talking about passion, you're talking about it's a professional environment. You play to win, because if you don't win, you're going to lose your job and all of those things.
Yes.
What do we have in Canada? Like, for example, if I'm coaching a League One team, what leagues do we have in Canada that we can compare to what's happening somewhere else in the world? You know, we have MLS, right? TFC, Montreal, Vancouver, 3 teams in the MLS, only 3 coaching jobs. We have CPL. How many teams in the CPL, Richard? 6, 7, 8, right? They're all over the country. So there's only 8 jobs available there. You know what I'm getting at, Rafa? League One. Come on. League One. Dino, you know, you and I and Dino and somebody else forgot, Lino. We sat in Dino's office and we started talking about League One about 100 years ago, if you remember, Rafa. And so League One, what are the opportunities there? Is there an opportunity there to make money, to make a living out of it, right? To be a professional coach? No, it isn't. There isn't. So to your point, Rafa, getting back to what you were saying, okay, so I play to win. And even when I win, so what? Jason Beckford won the championship with Barry, the Rovers, last year. This year is not coaching anymore. I don't know why. It's not coaching anymore, you know? So where can he go from there? So we, you know, I want to get back to the environment that we have. We don't have that kind of environment, I think, that will encourage you to say, I'm going to try to do the best that I can here so that I can coach Man United next year, or I can coach, like you were saying, the first team next year. We don't have that. You know, Richard was saying before, we hire coaches, young coaches, to teach in our academies, TFC, and other, you know, and other academies around the city. We don't have, I don't think that we have, you know, that level of teaching that can make our kids better. Richard, any questions from our viewers? If they do, now is the time to ask them.
Yeah, Tony. I mean, there's just so many. You know, Rumba Montali is here, and I know he's put his hand up a few times, and I have to apologize, guys, that there's like a I don't know, a ticker tape of comments coming down. But Rumba's here. Go ahead and type your question, and we'll ask it to the panel here.
What are some of the comments that you see in the?
Okay, maybe while Rumba is typing, I'll read. I mean, we have.
I gotta get.
Yeah. Charles here. You know, I'll just start close to the top.
Yeah, just read them off.
I had a conversation with a former MLS player that also used to coach in a Canadian MLS academy. He told me it's not possible to get Canada U15, U17, U20 job if you're not already in an academy. Places in these academies are very limited, but we have more good players that are developing differently at a different pace. Here we have lots of fields and facilities, but still not enough to fill the demand and desire for grassroots or youth development programming. Not to mention extra training needs grassroots leagues in Ontario, kids are playing games every second week. Too much. I think those that are here, you're going to have to read these, because it's going to take me an hour to read all of these.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Rumba's question is here. Okay. I've been listening to this webinar for an hour. What's the desired outcome of the webinar? This isn't supposed to be a bitching session. What next steps have we taken in this hour?
Yeah, well, I don't think, Umba, I don't think it is a, BITCH session, but I think we're talking about our experiences in player development, coaching development, Evan being a part of it, and knowing, how they do it in other countries, in other places. How come that we are not able, to break that line? We always finish last. We qualify for the World Cup. We have qualified on many occasions, but we always finish last. So we have not been able to improve at that level. But in CONCACAF, like I was saying before, we have made some pretty good strides, at that level. But now going back to our academies, the TFCs and all of the other ones that we know of, we know that coaching education, they're, better coaching, like Rafa was saying, is a must. Better coaching it's the only way to do it. The only way to get these kids, and competition. I don't think we have, the right competition for these boys and girls, and to develop, at the point where they can compete at the world level. Richard, go ahead.
I can give a few suggestions, okay? Because I know Rumba, it's a good point, right? We can't just complain or point out even what we've experienced ourselves. What are the suggestions? I have a few, okay? Maybe you can feed off my suggestion. Number one, if we're going to talk about player identification, then I think whatever barriers currently exist, we have to get rid of them. It doesn't make sense to have a system where a coach of a team has to tell the provincial coach or the national coach or the TFC coach who his best players are, or that the players have to fill out forms or do things. Scouting has to come, in my opinion, has to come from the top down. I've seen it all over the world. I don't know. I know there are Ontario soccer scouts and they watch some games or whatever, but it's nothing like the level of detail that we have in other countries. I think that no matter where a player plays, it doesn't have to be OPDL, it doesn't have to be private academy, whatever. It would be really interesting to see that some of the money that is spent by Canada Soccer and Ontario Soccer, or more of it anyway, can go towards hiring scouts that are experienced, that have, again, a proven track record of developing players, and get them to look everywhere. If we limit the national team selection to the TFC Academy, and then we limit, provincial team, whatever it is now, to the OPDL, and we allow the coaches of those teams to tell the higher level teams who their best players are, to me, that's biased, and it poses a really significant risk that a lot of talented players get missed. And here's a way that you can tell that talented players are getting missed, is that, there are dozens of young Canadian players that have already attracted the attention of top youth academies all over Europe and South America. I can list like 20 off the top of my head who are playing in the youth academy: Frosinone, Pescara in Italy, Sporting Lisbon, Turkey, all over. If they're good enough to get there, how can it be possible that they're not at least comparable to the players that are in the TFC Academy? So that's one thing, Rumba, right away.
So sorry, Rich, I got to quickly comment on
bias.
that.
Yeah,
Sorry,
you and I
Rich.
were talking about that this morning before the thing. Yeah, go ahead, Peyton.
Yeah, I just want to say that there's no doubt that the scouting can be better and improve. It's so difficult and so unrealistic to say Canada Soccer is going to put scouts in every neighborhood, in every environment, in every league.
I didn't say
there has to be a system that you have to rely. You do have to rely on our provincial bodies identifying kids. Academies recommend. Because I think the problem is, unfortunately, is because that recommendation is limited now, and they're closed into potentially taking recommendations for players that are outside of the outside of those environments, and unless the kids have gone in and moved into a European environment and they're very successful, then they have a pathway to come back. So are the kids getting missed? For sure. I could give you a great example of it. Anthony Moreno, leading goal scorer, OPDL, a 16-year-old, a U17 leading goal scorer, provincial team captain, scored for provincial team. Just recently in a game scored against TFC, scored 3 goals against TFC the other day. He's been asked to go to TFC. The kid has opted out. And I know I had this discussion with Brian, and I know Brian pushed for this kid to go into the national camp. This kid deserved an opportunity to be in the camp 100%. He needed to have an opportunity. So that, again, that would have come from recommendation, from the provincial recommendation, which they did, but unfortunately, the powers on top weren't receptive to it, or didn't see, maybe because he wasn't playing at that level. So it is difficult. It is for sure. The scouting piece is not easy. It's not as easy as let's put scouts everywhere and get kids into the program. That's something that's really challenging. We got to be honest, and we got to be realistic about how big this country is and how difficult it is.
Respectfully though, Pavance, sorry, but I'm not saying put scouts everywhere and go everywhere. What I am saying is, if we can eliminate some of the barriers that currently exist for players to be identified, that would be a positive. And second of all, we need more scouting. Maybe it's not going to be perfect, but let's just say hypothetically right now, we may be missing out on 50% of the most talented players for a number of reasons. One, because the OPDL is expensive and there may be some players that can't afford it. Two, because lots of people don't see the value in being in the OPDL and they don't want to pay for it even though they can't afford it. Three, because there's, everything seems to be funneled into these MLS academies and we're missing kids from Europe, whatever it is. We need more scouts. We need to try to do better with it. What I see isn't, like, I'm not suggesting that we're going to go and all of a sudden we're going to find every single talented kid in the country, but I see too many challenges with it. And instead of addressing it, the comments that I get, even from the people who work in Ontario soccer, are, well, most of the most talented players are already in the OPDL. All the best players in the boys' side are already in the TFC Academy. This is what they're saying. So the provincial coaches are saying that all the most talented players are in the OPDL when everybody knows that that's not true. So either they are, ignorant and then they're not aware of where the most talented players are, or they're lying. Yeah.
Rafa, before you go, Johnny wanted to say something. He's got his hand up for the last 20. He's getting tired. Put it down, Johnny. You can talk now.
Yeah,
I think that Richard.
Okay, go ahead.
Richard hit it in the nail, right on the nail, because it's all about scouting. But it's not about quantity, it's about quality. You have the top countries in the world, they don't have 50 scouters. No, they have 5, 6 who work full-time, but they're all experienced, they know what to look for. I tell you a story about when I was in the national team with Benito. Benito says, let's go see this game. There was a semi-final, college semi-final. I can't remember George Brown. I can't remember who they were. But Kyle Laring was playing there. Benito didn't know Kyle. We went just to watch the game, and we did that out of that. And Benito said, that kid. And I said, why? He says, that kid has everything that is needed to be a pro. Nobody knew Kyle Laring, so he decided to bring him to Florida to a camp with the men's national team. Kyle came on the first camp, and he was a little bit nervous, but then eventually everybody knows what happened. So Benito knew exactly what to look for. I had a phone call from a friend of mine who played against me and then coach against me, and told me, Rafa, come over to look at our game. We're playing this afternoon. I remember it was at Oakville Field. And we went there to watch his team. But I told the head coach, I was assistant coach, I told the head coach, look at these other kids. He says, why? I said, look at them. Take a look at them. He did. And who were those kids? Well, Cavallini, Osorio, there were a couple of other kids, and Fresenga. I mean, the players are out there. But if the experience and the knowledge, the know-how to recognize them is not there, then forget it. It's like they don't exist. All you need is experienced scouts who know the game, who know how to identify real talent, and then go from there. And they will guarantee, they will identify many, many players in Canada that nobody even knew about them.
Yeah,
But
and
you
Rafa,
need to know about the game, and you need to know what to look for.
yeah, I was telling you before, I watch a lot of OPDL games. There are some good players out there, both on the boys side and on the girls side. Some good quality players there. But I don't think that particular environment, that team, maybe that competition at that time, is the best thing for them. They need to get out of there. Getting out of there, by that, I don't mean get out of PDL. I mean, they need to play a little bit tougher competition. There is talent. I agree with you 1,000,000%. Johnny, your
Yes.
turn. Make
I
it
know.
quick.
Okay, I'll make it quick. No, just I guess you know, Pavan's point there about scouting and Richard's. My solution to that problem, you know, because the CSA can't afford to have scouts everywhere to go up every single game, is something that we used to do way back when the National Soccer League was around. The National Soccer League was a professional league, and actually, I played in that league, and talking about Raf there and the importance of winning. Unfortunately, we were one of the lower budget teams with Toronto Ukrainia, and the way we got paid is if we lost, we only got dinner and a bus ride to whatever game we had to go play. If we tied, we made some money, and if we won, we made more money. So talk about pressure. So I agree that, you know, pressure is important at times, but they had a minor division called the National Soccer League Minor Division, and what that league did is they formed an all-star team. Scarborough Soccer Association, who had their own league, because not every team made they had an all-star team, and they appointed coaches who might have a different view of players. You know, they play a different style or whatever. And I know I took the National Soccer League Select, and I had to go find players and scout. I think we had 16 teams, and put a team together. Now, you also know which players are on the provincial team. You're not going to pick them because they're already, you know, moved up
Identified,
the
yeah.
ladder, identified. Plus, they won't have time. So over the course of you know, say a month, I went and scouted all the teams, found players that fitted the way I like to play. And so when we would play, like we played the provincial team, we'd tie them once and beat them another time. All of a sudden, you know, you have a different perspective. And we've also been able to work with these players. So not only do we scout them, we bring them into training and we train, you know, and they still play in their regular teams, but all of a sudden you have different eyes, and then we play the provincial team, or we played another like the Scarborough Selects, and so we have so many good leagues. Like, I mean, you've got your OPDL, you can have an all-star team, say the East All-Star, West All-Star. I'm sure in BC and Alberta you could do the same, or in Quebec. And then you have the GHSL, I think, which is the next league. Maybe they have an all-star team. The I-League has an all-star team. And you can have a whole bunch of all-star teams where maybe you're starting to, you know, find different players with different skills. And they're playing together once every couple of weeks. And that might solve your scouting problem, because now you've got so many different scouts and even the universities. I mean, I don't know if they have a national team. I think you had the national program, but you could do that for different ages. You know,
Yeah, the All-Star, Johnny, the All-Star.
yeah, so just going back to the NSL, there's a lot of players that were not with the provincial team, that after they saw the players that weren't originally picked, like in Nino Adamo ended up playing Toronto Blizzards and CSL, and we had Gio DeFlorio, Hector Marinero ended up going to the national team eventually. But originally they weren't scouted for the provincial. But with all these all-star teams, I think that might be a solution to weeding out some players and bringing all the better players together once in a while, and then maybe more players get an opportunity to be seen. Because what they do a provincial team, if you're not OPDL, I guess you sign this thing, you go for a play. I had a couple kids go when I was Pickering, and they go there for 2 hours, and then they expect to perform with players you've never seen before, and then okay, you're cut.
Yeah, Johnny, you know what? The All-Star competition, from NSL and all of those, they were very popular back then. And I think, and you're right, and I think there was a lot of kids that had not been identified at the provincial
Right.
level and so on, who, somehow, for whatever reason, but through All-Stars, a lot of them, came through and did some good things. Pedro,
Yeah.
remember that CPL team, that All-Star team we played in London against Maritimo? You remember? Did you play in that game? Did I play you in that game, or did I sit you on the bench?
No, you played me. I was lucky because I paid you before the game, so you played me.
I think I played you. I think I played you. So listen, guys, we're gonna have a part 2 on this. Our part 2 is gonna be about, to our friend who asked the question. Our part 2 is gonna be about solutions, suggestions about player development, player identification, coaching development, coaching identification as well. There's some good quality people out there, coaches out there, who don't get the opportunity to coach at different levels. So our part 2 in a couple of weeks, Johnny and everyone, it's going to be about that. It's going to be about suggestions and things that perhaps we could do or should do or maybe are doing, but not doing as well, improve on, is player ID again, player development, coaching ID, coaching identification, coaching development, and all of those things. So I'm hoping that, we get as many viewers next time as we did on this one. And hopefully we can get Sean back, next time. And we're thinking of inviting, other people as well who Rafa, to your point, who have been in the game, who have coached at a high level and have something to offer, and to that point, I want to say something. Man, people are not going to like this. A couple of months ago, was it a couple of months ago, Richard, or 5-6 months ago? We organized the convention.
Almost, yeah, we started a year ago.
We had Rafa, maybe you don't know this, but we, when I say we, the National Soccer Coaching Association of Canada, we were bringing in the technical director of coaching development director for the Croatian Soccer Federation, was coming in to spend a whole weekend with us in Canada, in Toronto, in Mississauga with Pavan. And we were bringing in Joao, forgot his last name, God forgive me, Joao from Benfica, who also was going to join the coach from Croatia. And so we were trying to put that convention together, and I'm going to say it, guys. I'm going to say we have to cancel it. We had to cancel it because we didn't get enough coaches that wanted to participate. Am I right, Richard? And we didn't get support from the people that you expect support from. When you talk about coaching development, coaching education, you bringing in the technical director of coaching development for Croatia, one of the top teams in the world. And we couldn't get enough coaches to come in and say, I want to be there. And that was disappointing. That was very, very disappointing. So to all you guys that are listening out there, you start saying, yeah, but I can do this and I can't do that. And, we're not able to do this and that or whatever. We, the National Coaching Soccer Association of Canada, we are a non-profit organization. Now, we wasted, all of us, we wasted 2 hours of our time here today to bring this to you so we can have a discussion. We organize coaching conventions, we organize coaching clinics, coaching seminars, and it would be nice if we get your support from now on, so that we can bring you more things. We can bring back the coach from Croatia. We can bring back the coach from Portugal. We can bring back Rafael Carvajal to come here and share his experience in Paraguay. No, Rafa, I'm not joking. You know, share his experience in Paraguay and so on. So I'm hoping that people that are listening today, if you're not a member of NACAC, that I'm hoping, because you love the game like we do, and that's why you're here. You listen to us for an hour and a half, that you become a member and you support us. So that, geez, I feel like I'm promoting that stuff on TV now, like a preacher or something. But you know what? We can all get better. We're talking about coaching education, Rafa, right? We can all get better, but we have to make an effort to get better. You know, we can just watch TV or watch Man United or read the newspaper or read an article, and all of a sudden we know everything about soccer. We need to be with people that know more than we do about the game, right? The people that can, Benito, that looks at you and goes, no, that's wrong. And you go, tell me why. I want to know, you know, and so on and on. Anyway, I have to say that in my own way. And Richard and John and Rafa.
Tony, just
Yeah.
one more thing. Next week, actually, next Tuesday, we have Eric Ramsey, staff
There you
coach
go.
for Manchester United on our webinar. So look that up in the nscac.ca.
Yeah,
Yeah, direct from Manchester.
Everyone who is still on, you know, I did type in the chat there the link to our association. If you'd like to join, it's $60 a year. It's not expensive, but you know, for us to keep doing things like this and get people on like Rafa, Payvan, you know, Sean, everybody else, and even, you know, the little mini clinics and things like the one that we're doing next week, which is with a top coach, right? Which is being run by a coach who works with Manchester United. So, you know, we want to keep doing these things, and you know, every little bit helps, of course, that we can keep it going.
Yeah, and so before we go, guys, I'm going to give each one of you, if you don't mind, if it's okay, a couple of minutes to kind of, you know, your final thoughts on this, and we'll start. I'll start on my left. I'll start with Johnny, and then we'll go across to Rafa and Payvan, and then Richard, you will be the closer on this one. Johnny, you got 2 minutes. I'm timing it.
No, you know, basically, I thank everyone for joining us, and certainly all the panelists here. A lot of good information, a lot of comments we weren't able to get to. You know, I think player ID is important. I think we are developing more and more kids who are passionate about soccer than I've ever seen as a percentage. You know, sometimes I talk to the kids and I give them maybe some terminology that's hockey or baseball that here are more so-called watch sports on television, or football, American football, and they don't know what I'm talking about sometimes, which is good, because that means they're really into soccer. Sometimes they'll know of transfers of players before I even do. So I'm finding that the younger kids in particular are really getting into it, and you know, they know what's going on in game and who gets transferred in that, which is something you know, I think I didn't see 30 years ago. So I think that's a good sign. We can get them playing on the fields with themselves, with their buddies more often. I think that would be good.
Johnny, I'm counting you down. Rafa, your summary and your thoughts.
Well, first of all, thank you for the invitation and for the opportunity to continue to exchange ideas and to look for what's best for Canadian soccer. Canada, it's my country. Basically, I've lived in Canada more than anywhere else, but I realized that for my passion, which is football, soccer, I had to get out of Canada to open up more doors and opportunities, to find opportunities at a higher level. I hope that one day coaches and players won't have to do that anymore, especially coaches. And there will be coaching license level that will really match the international level for the top coaches. I am always willing to participate, to cooperate, and share my experience. And basically, my experience is not over because I'm coaching right now.
Yeah.
So it will continue to do so. So thank you guys, and count on me anytime you want to talk about the game and you want to talk about how to get the game to a better level in Canada.
Thank you, Rafa. Pepe, your thoughts.
Yeah, thanks, guys. I appreciate the invitation. It was great, and I know it might seem like, based on Rumba's comment, it seems like that we didn't really accomplish anything. But my 2 cents: we need to accept the reality that we're underdogs on the men's side, and we have been, and we continue to be. One-off teams going and being successful doesn't say that we're doing something right. As discussed before, I think we're underdogs on the men's side. Things some things have gone better. We've produced now some better players that are playing at the high level in Europe and whatnot. But I think I keep thinking about Rumba saying that what is it, what's the outcome of this? I think, unfortunately, unless we have people from Canada Soccer who could tell us their challenges, because we don't know what their challenges are. The reality of it is that we are sitting here on the sideline and expressing our opinion and thoughts, but what is it from their mouth? What are the challenges? Why aren't they not able to get the top players? Why isn't that we're successful? They have some ideas, and they need to be on these panels to share that with us and tell us what their experience is and what are the challenges and obstacles and that they face with on a daily basis to be successful. And then from my part is, I've always said, I try to take whatever environment that I have and try to do what I think is best for that environment to help our players excel and get to the next level. So we all need to do our part in our own environments. Rich training people physically, Rafa coaching, giving an opportunity to a young kid, me advocating for, a Deanne Rose who was cut from the, U15s, or, Anthony Morano that I think deserves an opportunity, or to try to guide them to do the right things. We got to do those things in our own environment to try to help kids and, and have less obstacles along the way for those who are in our environments, deal with our own controllables, things that we could deal with. And so that's my 2 cents.
Thank you, Pepe. Richard?
Yeah, so thank you, everybody. Of course, our panel for being here, and everybody that registered and watched. And I do hope you got some value out of it. And of course, we'll do it again. And we'll try to be even more, let's say, productive in terms of outcomes and suggestions and what we can do differently. Okay, what I will say is, in 2022, Canada Soccer spent $54 million, and Ontario Soccer spent $7 million in that year. And I don't believe that the money has been spent very efficiently. So the simplest way I can suggest outcomes and how things can be done better is that money needs to be spent on hiring people who are competent, who have experience coaching at the highest level, who have knowledge, and preferably knowledge that they gained at the highest level, not here, and who have a proven track record of success. So those are competent people, and that's across administration, leadership, coach education, coaching, all the way down. And if we hire competent people and then we put systems in place to hold those people accountable to results, and what are the results? The results are developing top players. The results are achieving success at some of these international tournaments. And the results are eventually developing top coaches like Rafa that can go and have success outside of the country. If we hire competent people and we hold them accountable to their results, we will do better. I don't think right now that Ontario Soccer or Canada Soccer is going to want to speak about these things, because if they do, they're going to have to acknowledge that they haven't done that. They haven't hired people who are competent, and they haven't held people accountable for their results. And, until we do that, I don't believe that things will improve, but I'm still hopeful that at some point we can.
Well, I got the last say. So this is the way I see it. I don't think it's all that bad. Honestly, I don't really think it's that bad. Yeah, it can be better, of course. Anything can be better. You look at the women's side, many of our women soccer players, they're playing in some of the best clubs in the world: Barcelona, PSG, Arsenal, Man United, Man City, Chelsea. These are Canadian kids, ladies, who are playing in Europe in some of the best clubs in the world, which we didn't have years ago that I can remember, right? So we must be doing something right. We can't do everything right, but we must be doing something right. Just a few years ago, we won a gold medal at the Olympics. Holy crap, that's not bad. It's pretty damn good. And like every national team, you have ups and downs. Italy didn't qualify for the World Cup 2 years in a row, 2 World Cups in a row. And they are all of the things that happen there. So national teams have those ups and downs where they have a surge of good players and good opportunities, maybe the lack of the draw sometimes we were talking before. But on the women's side, I'm telling you, we got players playing in top clubs in the world. On the men's side, same thing. We got players that are playing in Europe, top clubs in the world. What's his name? David? Jonathan David. AC Milan wants to buy him. They're going to buy him, but they are going to buy him in January. I don't remember this happening years ago. So I think we're doing some things right. Can we do it better? Yeah, of course we could do it better. Anybody can do things better. Does it start at the bottom? If we started fixing at the bottom, then hopefully over time, things at the top will get better. And I bet you anything, and I'm not taking anybody's side here, I'm just telling you the way it is. Don't forget, I've been in the game 51 years. I bet you anything that the people that we were talking about before, the OSA people, the CSA people, the administrator, all of that, I think they are aware of all of this problems and situations that can be improved. Maybe they don't know how to fix it. Maybe they don't have the resources to fix it. Like Pavan said, it'd be nice to hear from them and say, you know what, these are the challenges that we have. But again, I don't think it's all that bad. Players, Canadian players on the national teams and other or non-national teams are playing in Europe with some of the best clubs in the world. Alphonso Davies, probably one top 2, 3 defender, left back in the world. Come on, guys. It's not that bad. I don't think it's that bad. But we could do better. Damn it, we can do better, and we should do better. Soccer is a huge business in Canada. We have managed to make it a huge business where a lot of people are making good money out of this for the wrong reason, or maybe for the right reason, because the money goes in their pockets. And I think these are the ones we need to weed out. And then leave people that are passionate about the game and know about the game that want to make things better. But you know what, guys? I'll be honest. I don't think it's all that bad. I really don't think it's all that bad. And I think we're going to get better. And if we continue these discussions, and if people listen, people start to listen, yeah, it's okay to talk to these guys here on the panel now, and I'm talking about people at the OSA and CSA. It's okay to talk to these guys and say, hey, you know what? Let's have a discussion. Let's have a discussion. You may have one point that makes sense, that can help us, or can help us make things better. I think once we start opening up that dialogue without feeling intimidated or feeling that you're being, shot at, I think good things will happen. But you know what, guys? It's not that bad. I don't think it's as bad as perhaps other people think out there. I agree with many of the things that Richard says. I agree with many of the things that Ralph and Pavan and Johnny said. I don't think it's that bad. And I know it's going to get better. And there you go. And those are my 5 cents worth. So hopefully we'll see and hear from everybody and on part 2 of this conversation. And we're hoping that for part 2, we're going to invite some people from the OSA and the CSA to come on. And I hope they accept and have an open discussion about the game that we love, the game of soccer, and how we can all make it better. Because you know what? OSA, CSA, you are not the only ones, that have a stake in it. I do, because I love this freaking game. Richard does, Rafa does, Pavan does, all of the coaches that were listening today. We all have something invested in this game. You're not the only one. So listen to what we have to say. We have some good things to say. Anyway, there we go. So part 2 coming up. Sign up. Rafa, thank you very much. Always good to see you. Pavan, thank you.
Thanks, Rafa. It was good seeing you, man. It's been a long time.
Johnny, thank you. Guys, we'll see you next time.